Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Got a really cool series of videos coming up, and in this first part, I had to break it up into two parts. This install of the REL 25 at my friend Doug's place was a lot of material and a lot of things that I think will be valuable to you because it shows a setup of the REL 25 totally separate from the way I did it. And so I thought it might be helpful to you. But a couple things to kind of give you a heads up and overview before I show you the video. Number one, if you haven't seen my friend Doug's setup, we walked through his entire audition process to choose his main speakers, which were NBL 101Es. So you're going to want to watch that series. We also talked about the custom amps he had made by Steve McCormack for the NBLs. And I got to say, even without this REL sub, I'd never heard the NBL sound better. So that's another aspect. And then his whole room and all kinds of other things are in those prior videos. So if you're a new subscriber or haven't seen those videos, you may want to check those out at some point. But on its own, I think this video will be helpful to show a different way of integrating a REL 25 sub than what I did. I did, if you recall, and you can watch those videos if you haven't, using miniDSPSHD, and even before that, using Dirac and crossover points, and not using the high-level connection. This one, we are going to use the high-level connection with Doug's because of a few reasons. Number one, he does have a lot of analog tape and vinyl source material, so he may not want to digitize or use a digital crossover or DSP in some of those instances, or at least be able to A/B it to be able to determine. And then he's getting a preamp made by Steve McCormack to match his amps. So the miniDSPSHD and the amount of technical know-how and finagling you have to do is sometimes a little bit much for people to have to hassle with. So using the high-level connection is something that we thought would work good for him as a start. But as I've said in the past, the high level has some weaknesses, and at least in my opinion. And in my opinion, it particularly has weaknesses when you're mating a sub with a full range main speaker, because both are going to keep playing irregardless. They're not crossing over your mains at all, and you're not alleviating anything from your mains. So when you have them both playing together, it can get muddy, it could get overdone. So you got to be very careful, or either set the crossover point really low on the RELs. Now, why did I think that might not work optimally for Doug? Well, in talking to him ahead of time, and this is what you're going to want, is your dealer or friends to help you if you don't have this experience. But in talking to Doug, he was really not, he knew that the NBLs played full range and he could feel the bass. He just was, in certain songs, was missing that oomph and impact. So based on my experience, and then also previously hearing his system where I knew it did have bass, I figured what was happening is that on certain songs, as he was alluding to, he was probably hearing bass that was hitting a particular null in his room, and that's why those certain songs weren't giving him the bass impact of other songs that may not have hit that particular frequency range in the bass. So that made me a little suspicious of using the high level because, like I said, with the high level, in order not to have too much overlap, you've got to set the crossover really low. So what do we have when you put all these factors together? You got a lot of analog. You don't want a DSP. You don't want to do, you got to do high level, but you want to do a higher crossover potentially to negate that null. Well, what I told Doug is, why not try this DSPeaker Antimode product? And I'll show you a picture of it. I mentioned it in the previous videos. And he went ahead and bought that. It's a piece that has been used by the NBL distributor that sets up the NBL Extremes. If you see my videos, when that was set up at 3MA, that was part of the setup process. It's not, it doesn't come with the NBL Extremes, but it's quasi-endorsed. The distributor uses it. So we thought, hey, why not try it? And then we could put it at different points in the food chain, up or down, depending on if you just wanted to work on the digital side, your CDs and streaming, or if you wanted to work on everything. It's a very versatile piece, not quite as versatile as the SHD, but a little more user-friendly in terms of set it and forget it one time kind of thing. So I had not a lot of experience with that. So you're going to see the experience and some feedback I give on that. And also how we manage the issue of a peak after doing a higher crossover, how we were able to negate that null by doing a crossover high at that point. But then we had a boost and then how we use DSP to bring that down. And the great thing is that one button push turns it on or off. And it's in the food chain right now for everything because he liked it. But you could put it further up and down the food chain. So just wanted to give a little bit of overview and perspective because it's kind of tough maybe to follow, especially if you can't watch the entire 30 minutes of all the footage. But I try to give you all the footage as we go through the steps to give you some insight. And also kudos to 3MA and dealers that'll go through all this, travel all the way from Houston to New Orleans to do this. And we also at the same time involved calls to Steve McCormack and Jeremy with MBL. They were helpful. You know, having these resources is part of an equation that you don't want to overlook. It's great to have great gear and you can buy great gear, but setup is equally as great, if not bigger part of the equation to getting it sounding right. And that's what I'm trying to get across in this video. This technique may not work for you. There's other ones like I've shown with my setup of REL, but I'm showing you how much should go into the setup of your gear. You're also going to see a customer from 3MA who went with them and listened to Doug's system. We're friends with him as well. He ended up buying 2 REL 25s. He's got 2 carbon specials. So people have been asking me, would you get 2 carbon specials or 1 REL 25? Well, in this case, this person had 2 carbon specials. He bought REL 25, actually got 2 of them after hearing Doug. So lots of good material here. A second video will have just music clips because I got so much stuff. So all the music clips will be in a second video. And that one will help you because even with a cell phone mic, which isn't really that great with bass, I think you'll be able to tell how much things were progressing with the different things we did. So hopefully you find this helpful. But again, ask any questions, comments, and I'll try to help you as much as I can. But without further ado, let's get started. Okay, guys, guess where we are again? My friend Doug's house. You remember from previous videos? Give you another quick little tour. For those that didn't see, that's his Studer. He just ordered about $4 grand worth of tapes. Got not a big fan of Aeon, but neither is he anymore, but kept that CD player, lampizator, server, some loaner Macintosh preamp until he gets Steve McCormack's custom one that we talked about. Then he's got an old Nakamichi amp that's going to be actually swapped out this weekend. And the big boys, the MBL 101s that we did a formal video on in the past. And also Steve McCormack's custom monoblocks. Again, he picked this specific aesthetic. You can do that as well with the upgrades. So this part is finally coming out because as you can tell aesthetically, everything matches really good. Silver, black, a lot of silver and black. And this guy, the REL 25, will be put in the middle to start to see how it performs and sounds and measures. Now I'll put up some video. It was quite a, even for a state powerlifting champion that Doug had to help him get it just into his elevator, which is behind that door. This was kind of even tough for him and a friend to get up here. So maybe I'll put up some video of that. Showing you a little more of his space to refresh your memory. Back here, he's got an awesome headphone rig. The Mod-Right Trist amp, a modified Oppo, separate power supply, HD 800 Sennheiser, Y wires, pretty much as reference as it gets for headphone rig. Then he plays in a band. This Taylor guitar he got in Houston, super sweet. Camera won't do it justice. It's just beautiful, sounds beautiful, plays well. Then he's got his guitars, really sweet Guitar is the California Tweed. Mesa Boogie. Amp is really cool. Fish, we could do, a friend of ours does that. And that should get you caught up on the room from the last video. Carry on in a minute when Johnny and Luis and the guys from 3MA get here. They're going to move this in here and we're going to start installing it. But this is the other new piece, that tool that we're going to use, this Antimode DSPeaker. Now this is something that comes with the MBL Extremes, their number one reference top of the line product to mate with their towers. So it stands to reason, number one, that this is quasi endorsed by MBL and should work well when mating a sub to these. So we're going to try that as well. I'm not very familiar with this piece, but the guys from 3MA have some experience with it, with the MBL Extremes, and definitely want to kind of give my thoughts on this, because this may be an alternative for you guys that don't need a preamp like the miniDSPSHD product I showed and just need something like this. I'll kind of dive in as much as I can in the short time we're here and give you guys as much feedback as possible. I think this runs around $1,000, and this is in stock, and Doug got it within a week, so no big shipping delays. So excited to get this implemented and see how it works. So stay tuned, I'll be back. Okay, we're back at Doug's with the 3MA crew, and we're going to do some test tones, see what the system performance is in the bass area before installing the REL. I mean, that's like back in your Delta Tau Delta right. Dorm days. Grateful Dead tapestry. Yeah. You should make the whole doors are wrapped with that. This is like almost like a secret room where things go on behind it. Yeah. Exactly. That's a good idea, but I thought that was maybe some kind of.
No, it's just I was trying to just find something in a pinch to act as an absorber, if you will.
She said, "Where the hell is my goddamn?"
That's a good idea to get him to cut a piece of this.
Same color, yeah, I would definitely do that.
It's good, kind of medium room.
Let's take a
reflection wise with the RT60. Good for an MBL.
So what are we looking at here?
We got the RT60 graph, the reverb. So after the tone is emitted, how long does it take before it dies off? That's what this is. You got the frequency waterfall as the tone dies down. The decibel sound pressure level goes down for all, the frequency in the spectrum. And then you have a frequency response table. And then impulse response, this will tell you how far away the mic or the listening position is from the actual speaker. And total harmonic distortion. So what it's emitting versus what it's actually reading on the microphone.
Go to the frequency response. So you had a peak somewhere. Big peak here. What is that? Frequency.
Let's see. Probably somewhere in the 40 hertz.
You have the porn playlist. That's our secret.
Let me see if I can find it.
We need the secret. I don't know if I could disclose this on video, but that's the secret to setting up your sub, is a porn playlist. All right, so we have to split the cable to stretch across 2 monoblocks. We're going to do the high level setup and then potentially use the DSPeaker to EQ everything as a whole. So That's where we are right now, just cutting the cable to length to avoid having too much extra cable. Yeah, so we've been doing like 3 different measurements with the sub, without the sub, different crossover points, trying to address a 60 hertz null, pretty much cured that, and then we can use DSP to take the peak that's a little bit higher.
This line right here is no sub.
No sub.
Big dip right here.
Yep.
And with the sub, the dips are less, and they actually even move further up the frequency band.
Yep.
And then with higher shareable frequencies, really small dip. And then with lower shareable frequencies, bigger dip, but still you get that extra low-end reinforcement from the REL.
Yeah. Which these peaks don't actually sound all that bad. In fact, a lot of people like it with different music, but you can easily DSP this down versus trying to fix a null. So this is actually very encouraging. And most importantly, sound-wise, it's starting to sound really good. So that's where we stand at the end of night 1, or close to the night 1.
That's starting and stopping on its own, Jason?
Enjoying a little bit of relaxation in Doug's backyard. I haven't had one of these since I was in high school. Barks is big down here in New Orleans, and red cream soda was like a staple back in my young days. Doug's backyard's pretty nice. Give you guys a little quick tour. Some storage, and got a nice little barbecue area, private. Lives in the old Metairie area of New Orleans, suburb. Really nice. All right, back up to the music room. Enough R&R. This DSPeaker is a little bit, the manual wasn't as clear, but we figured it out today with some help from Jeremy at MBL. Basically, it's not going to come out good on the camera, but unfortunately that's the only screen you get. It takes 7 measurements, but it's really long. Frequency sweeps over a minute, so you got to invest about 10 minutes or more time waiting for it to do its measurements, and then it applies its own correction on its own. If you do the typical, you know, we're just doing the, you can do some more advanced stuff, but we finally figured it out. It comes with this mic. Doesn't look like a mic, but it actually is a mic. And while it's doing those 7 measurements, you can keep it in the same spot or move it around, kind of like the Dirac, if you want to kind of get an average, but it'll apply its own correction. That's the step we're at now, and going to test it out, see how it sounds. It shows you before and after, and definitely, at least graphically, it looked like it's taken out the peak that we wanted it to take out. So let's listen, And confirm. So as you can tell, Doug is a nurse and wears his scrubs at home. You know.
It's called a male masseuse.
No, actually, he's a professional proctologist.
Obviously with the pink.
No, actually, one of the biggest. Okay. What is going on
one
here?
is super rare.
Super rare.
We just killed this bottle.
Oh my god.
The mixtures toasted barrel.
Yes.
Awesome. That tastes good.
What are y'all
There's
smoking
some,
here?
Isn't that
Cuban,
nice?
Wobania,
pick this up at?
Bolivar,
Can't.
some Opus X.
Nice. That's a bottle of water there.
Yeah, that's a bottle of water. That's some nice Cuban here.
Holy water. Nice.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, very
All right, so what we did was we installed the DSPeaker and it's got its own correction, so we're gonna go listen upstairs. Whenever y'all ready, come on up.
All right.
In terms of a black and silver MBL setup, this is about as beautiful as you can get combination wise. It's nice.
Black and Johnny's black and silver underwear.
That's the best. That's the best part. Johnny matches his underwear to customer systems. Now, what dealer will do that for you? None. None.
There's stickers still on there, huh?
Yeah, there's stickers. Some stickers.
We got-
You wanna take them off?
Yeah, let's take them off.
Yeah, they're back.
He probably forgot about it.
Maybe you want to leave the tackle, just
And again, those are Townshend Seismic sync platforms. That's not part of the MBL. That's what you might notice a little different.
No, there you go.
Yeah, kind of.
No, I want two of them.
Give a little bit of
Joseph.
bourbon and you put on some bass and you're done.
Well, my carbon specials are they bottom out.
Is that the Janet Jackson?
Yep.
So he has carbon specials and he was thinking about getting REL 25. So he played a song that previously was bottoming out. And this single one, REL 25 doesn't. So sound wise, we've been doing some A/B testing and certainly more bass sometimes is going to be preferred on some. So peaks and flat is not always preferred, but in most cases, the correction done by this DSPeaker has been the preferred by a pretty sizable margin. So it did a good job of taking out, well, based on our crossover and stuff, we took out the dip at 60, and then now we're taking out the peak because of the overlap, because we're using high level. So this is a full range speaker, and obviously the REL is, so they're playing a lot of the same stuff, so you sometimes have a peak. And so the DSPeaker took out the
This dip. It took it
the
out.
dip, and then we also
This peak.
negated this peak. And again, a little bit more bass at these lower registers, almost 20 hertz, are almost indistinguishable.
This was a big change,
Huge change there.
and then this is a big change right here.
I'm sure you got it, because you always carry a dead body at the condo.
At least a 10 dB change right here.
Yeah.
Sideways?
So that's audible, especially at these higher frequencies where you're really listening for bass.
There's
know.
a cutoff for this though.
And the nice thing about it is that if you don't, even if you like something that's not flat, it's fine. You can just hit this bypass button and it instantly goes back to natural.
It even changed the reverb time.
You did?
So instead of that peak was ringing like almost for 1 second, and now it's like cut down to half a second.
Yeah, and that's also audible because you just feel a tightness and a cleanness that most people have, or
Sounds
that's
a
what
lot
people are remarking, how clean and tight. So it's not always just the frequency response
Less
improvement,
distortion.
less distortion. Because again, we're reducing gain. Like I've always said with DSP, reduce, don't add. We basically added by doing the crossover point where we had a dip. So this and this crossed over where we had a dip. So now there's just a natural increase without boosting anything.
So look at the main speaker versus system with the REL and the digital correction.
Yeah, so that was a big.
The back, you know, see the back? That shit goes in so the phone goes
So when you're sitting listening, some songs may not hit this, but when you hear this dip, that's very noticeable in a song. But when you can get rid of it and then just reduce the peaks or push them to areas that are not that noticeable.
Yeah, big difference between the with the REL and without.
So this is again why you want to get pieces of equipment from guys like 3MA that can come out here, do the setup, do the measurements, and help you do this kind of stuff that otherwise you'd have to learn on your own. So I'll give more information on that DSPeaker in the future, but definitely an audible and measurable difference. But look at this. This is nice. Just had dinner at Desi Vega. If y'all don't know what Desi Vega is, it's a great restaurant in Metairie, right by Doug's house. It was featured in my previous video. Cool lighting, smoking cigars, hanging out. And that will be a wrap for now. We'll be back out when you get to Steve McCormack preamp, custom preamp, and the MBL surrounds he just bought as of today.